All right, we're going to get started on section 3. Now, these start of class questions, we haven't been doing them recently, but we're going to start them right now because I want to review a few things. Question 1, determine the perimeter and area of rectangles. For this, we need to remember how to do formula questions. Whenever you do a formula question, you do these things. The first thing you do is you write out the formula. Perimeter of a rectangle is equal to twice the length plus twice the width. You write out the formula, you say what it means in your head. You don't just say it P equals 2L plus 2W. You say it in your head what everything means. You need to remember the formula. So step 1, write out the formula. And always do a check. This formula has 1, 2, 3 variables in it. I need to know 2 of those variables and I can find the third. So now I go to my question and I get perimeter is equal to 2 times 12 plus 2 times 23. I fill in what I know. And I continue writing down, lining up my equal signs vertically. The perimeter is equal to 24 plus 46. The perimeter is equal to, that's going to be 70 centimeters. That's how I determine the perimeter of a rectangle. I expect to see all of this written out every time you do a formula. Line up your equal signs going down. Step 1, write the formula out, say it in your head. Step 2, fill in what you know. Step 3, do the math. Step 4, check units. Now we're just going to do letter A here. So area of a rectangle is equal to length times width. Area is equal to 12 times 23. So area is equal to 276 centimeters squared. Excuse me. So always do this for anytime you do a formula question. I am expecting this on tests and quizzes for your formula work to look like this. Let's take a look at one from number 2. Determine the circumference and area of these circles. So letter A. I say the formula as I'm writing out. Circumference is equal to 2 times pi times the radius. In this one, there are only 2 variables. Pi is a constant. We know what pi is, 3.14159, so on. So I know my radius. Circumference is equal to 2 times pi times 3.45 meters. Then I can do all that work on my calculator. 2 times pi times 3.45, 21.7 meters. And I make sure that I've got that. So step 1, write out the formula. Step 2, fill in what you know. Step 3, solve it. Step 4, check your units. Now let's do the area. Area of a circle is equal to pi times the radius squared. Again, there's 2 variables in here, so I only need to know 1. Pi times 3.45 squared. Area is equal to, now, because it's all multiplying, I can just do this out. 3.45 squared times pi, 37.4. That's how I do these formula questions. Right, so remember those steps for formula questions. We're going to use them a lot in the next couple units. All right, so vocabulary. System International is also known as the SI, and it's also known as the metric system. We have base units, like meters, grams, liters, and then prefixes. Such as centi, milli, kilo, and there's many more actually. They go up, and it's based on powers of 10. So powers of 10, 10 to the power of x. That's what System International. The imperial system is what they use in the US. There's the American and British. This has units like feet, inches, pounds, etc. There's only a few countries in the world that still use the imperial system, America being the biggest one. In Canada, we have to deal with the imperial system because we deal with the US a lot. This is generally based on fractions. Now, there are many traditional measures. These can be weird measurements that might come up in like when you're reading old literature or something like that. You can look up what some of these mean. There's like hogsheads. I believe buttload is actually a proper measurement. It's a measurement of wine from history. Rods, furlongs, leagues. And these were just measurements in one culture, and they made up this measurement for some reason, and they used it. All right, so there's 3 different systems of measurement. We generally try to use the metric system in school, but we have to deal with the imperial system a lot because we deal with the units. Now, there are 2 ways for doing unit conversions: cross-multiplying, which I will show, and using a unit rate, which is also another possible way. And you're going to need your formula sheets and conversion tables for these. All right, so I do a lot of cross-multiplying. I teach you a lot of cross-multiplying because I find that people understand that very well. So I'm converting 35 centimeters into inches. So from my sheet, I need a conversion that has inches and centimeters. I know my centimeters, and I don't know my inches. So my inches are going to go on top. So I write it out like this. How many inches are there in 35 centimeters if, and I go to my system, 1 inch has 2.54 centimeters. So I set up this is my known proportion here from my conversion table. This is my unknown proportion here. Now, so I'm going to do 35 times 1 divided by 2.54. So I do 35 times 1, which is just 35, divided by 2.54, and I get 13.8. 13.8 inches. So conversions can all be done in this way. Now, unit rate. Okay, here's another way to do this. I know 86 inches, and I'm trying to get it to centimeters. So I write out, it's 86 inches. Then I need to multiply this by a number. And in that number, I need to have centimeters on top and inches on the bottom. It's going to be a fraction. So I have to have centimeters on top, 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. So I'm just going to multiply these two out like this. So I do 86 times 2.54 divided by 1. Now 2.54 divided by 1 is just 2.54, so it's end up going to be 86 times 2.54, 218.4. Now you should have in your head a rough idea of inches and centimeters, right? The conversion is 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. So you should know that 86 inches will give you more centimeters. And over here, more centimeters will give you fewer inches. All right, convert the following. So 45 inches into feet, I'm going to do cross multiplying here. 45 inches into feet. So I write down how many feet are there in 45 inches. If 1 foot has 12 inches. So I write that down. How many feet in 45 inches if 1 foot has 12 inches? Then I can do my cross multiplying. 45 times 1 divided by 12. So you get 45 times 1 is 45 divided by 12 is equal to 3.75. Now, this is a single unit measurement. Single unit measurements are what we can do math with. But sometimes we want into inches, into feet and inches. We want, in the imperial system, there's often multi-unit measurements. So let's take a look. 45 inches is equal to 3 whole feet, 0.75 feet. So we have 3 whole feet. That's our whole number of feet. And then we have 0.75 of a foot. Well, we know that there are 12 inches in 1 foot. Right? So now we're going to try and figure out this 0.75 of a foot into just inches. So I can write it out over here. How many inches are there in 0.75 of a foot? If there are 12 inches in 1 foot. So again, I'm going to do my cross multiply, times by that, divide by 1. So I do 0.75 times 12 divided by 1 is 9 inches. So it's 3 feet and 9 inches. So remember, 3 feet 9 inches, 3 feet 9 inches is 3.75 feet. 3 feet 9 inches is not equal to 3.9 feet. So remember that. Note, to do math, all measurements must be in decimal or fractional form, like this. Not like this. You cannot do math with 3 feet 9 inches. You're going to have to take that inches and turn it into either a fraction, 9 out of 12, or turn it into a decimal form like this. All right, so we've got a couple of formulas that we need to remember. Perimeter. Perimeter is the distance around an object. For a rectangle, our perimeter is equal to twice the length plus twice the width, or perimeter is equal to 2 times the length plus the width. Those two things. Remember to, when you're doing formula work, step 1, write the formula. Step 2, fill in what you know. Step 3, solve it. Step 4, check units. Circumference of a circle is equal to 2 times pi times the radius, right, where the radius is the distance from the center to the edge. Or circumference is equal to pi times the diameter, where the diameter is the distance all the way across. Now, when we're doing a lot of questions, we need to convert units before we do any calculations. That's so important. There are exceptions, but if you always convert before you calculate, then you'll always have success. And you don't have to really think too much. So the radius of a circle is 4 yards. What is their circumference in meters? Okay, so the radius is 4 yards. What I like to do is I like to sketch out a diagram first. Here's my circle. 4 yards. Now, I want my answer in meters, so I'm going to convert first from yards to meters. So I ask myself, how many meters are there in 4 yards? If I go to my conversion sheet and I get, if there are 0.9144 meters in 1 yard, well, I do my cross multiplying, this times this divided by this. So I do 0.9144 times 4 is equal to 3.6576. 3.6576 meters. So this is 3.6576 meters. Now I can keep this number in my calculator for use later. Now I want to know the circumference. So it's part 2. So I used to write out my formula. Circumference is equal to 2 times pi times the radius. I write out my formula. I say my formula. So circumference is equal to 2 times pi times 3.6576. All right. And now I can do my calculations. Because my 3.6576 was left in my calculator, I can just times it by pi, then times it by 2, and I get 22.981. So 22.98 meters. Now, I rounded that to 2 decimal places. It didn't say where to round it to. If I were to round it to 1 decimal place, I would have got 23.0 meters. It just depends on what the question asks. If the question doesn't say, you just do you just do what the question says. If it doesn't say, you just kind of do what you think is right. Okay, so important. Convert first, then calculate.